here. Get you all position. All right. In this video, we're going to be talking about the real shortages that are going to be taking place, or at least the very real threat of shortages that are going to be taking place. The tariffs that are impacting the global economy are now restricting the flow of goods and services that had once been very prevalent within the economy, and this is very similar to something that had taken place just a few years ago during COVID. Now, I have done a few videos not only a couple of years ago now, but probably even longer, predicting this outcome, saying that the real shortages will be coming and that people are not knowing how it is that they need to prepare for it, need to understand that the bullwhip effect is going to be taking place. And so now that we start to see it happen, I find a lot of evidence out there showing that the tariffs or the impact of the political nature is now causing these shortages to take place. But yet somehow, if you had looked at the bullwhip effect, you would have kind of seen this coming already. However, because of the political environment and the news that is then pushed out there and everybody's beliefs and ideas, it then covers up these economic forces so you can't really see them. Now, at the end of the day, what does it end up being described as, right? When people look at the evidence that I have presented, it was like, okay, you're right for the wrong reasons. And now I've heard this many times. And I thought to myself, well, am I really right for the wrong reasons? I mean, can you predict this stuff with other causes to be understood as opposed to the one that is being from the collective narrative? Like, everything that you hear in the news is the one that most people believe. But yet, if there was underlying economic forces that were at play, and you didn't recognize those underlying economic forces because you simply just didn't know what they were, then you would understand it from whatever narrative that you have heard, whether it's coming from the news or the neighbor or your parents or school or wherever it came from, right? But understanding that there is something underlying that has taken place, and then when you see all the symptoms of it out there, people then use that symptoms or look at those symptoms and say, hey, that's the reason why. So understanding that there was going to be shortages years ago, right? When you shut down the economy and you have shortages like that was created during COVID, you are going to have an overabundance that is created. Massive investment takes place and a bunch of production is happening to make up for the shortages. Oversupply, undersupply, oversupply, undersupply. This is the bullwhip effect until it is found in equilibrium. Now, if you were to go into a recession, that of the magnitude that we had faced during COVID, remember, it was the deepest recession in history, but it was also the shortest recession in history. Now, if you go back to 2019 and you look at a lot of economists, YouTubers, news articles, there was a lot of people describing a recession that was well on its way. The Federal Reserve was lowering interest rates. Every time you see the Fed funds rate start to fall, it almost always predicts a recession. COVID hits, COVID-induced recession. And I thought to myself, is it really a COVID-induced recession? Or is COVID happening to coincide with the recession? See, it was 12 years since we had seen one. The great financial crisis had left us in the greatest, longest expansion in U.S. history without a recession. And all of a sudden, COVID was the reason we had the recession. Doesn't seem very likely to me outside of the recession was taking place and COVID was an excellent excuse to cover it up. COVID-induced recession. I don't know how many times I heard it. It was a recession that was taking place during a COVID pandemic. So now here it is years later, and the bullwhip effect, I believe, is still taking place, where we go from oversupply to undersupply to oversupply to undersupply. We're running back into undersupply, and it's being covered up with trade wars. Again, people will look at the symptoms that are out there and say, no, man, how could you blame it on anything else? This is the reason. Right? Much like COVID was the reason for the recession that we had experienced during that time. Right? But it was well on its way. Whether you want to believe it or not, I mean, how else could I predict the shortages that were going to be coming? I left 3 videos talking, predicting that there was going to be shortages. You go and look at those videos, and none of the reasons that I was giving, or the ones that I was giving at the time, are the ones that you're going to hear out there in the news. Not a single one. Everything is going to come down to a political nature that was happening just now, just recently. Right? But is it really, or is it just a cover-up for the underlying economic forces that are really at play? See, this is how I look at the economy. I don't look at the news for information. I look at the news for evidence in descriptions of the things that I am already seeing or already believe within my theories and systems of understanding what it is that's happening out there. I don't fall in line with narrative beliefs. In fact, I look at narratives and I try to find evidence against them. I literally go against the grain. Now, a lot of times people just call me a, devil's advocate for that reason, but it's not. It's because most of the time what I'm seeing out there on the mainstream media is literally misinformation to guide you into a direction that is then leading you down a particular belief system that is now in line with their control. Right? Keeping you in fear and uncertainty is the key to it all. So understanding that there was going to be shortages well in advance, regardless if it was caused by tariffs or malinvestment or war efforts or environment or whatever, if you had believed a year ago that there was going to be shortages today, you would have been accurate. The shortages are coming. Now, how long they last is anybody's guess. You relieve all the tariff and you get a bunch of excitement within the people themselves and the markets get really pumped up. Well, who knows what could happen from that sort of energy. Yeah. But again, it doesn't mean that the underlying economic forces weren't at play to begin with. So I think about that as I look out there and I think to myself, well, I had already believed that there was going to be shortages coming. I was anticipating shortages coming. I didn't know exactly how that was going to look and what sectors or industries it was going to be taking place. But all of a sudden, here we have a trade war, which kind of just puts it all together in one time. And I'm thinking to myself, well, that was a pretty good way of covering it up, I guess. Now, whether it was a cover up or not doesn't really matter, but if you had believed there was going to be shortages a year ago, you would have been right today. That's all I guess I'm getting at on that. Hey, Will, thank you so much for the $2. Where are the fuzzy dice? I don't know. I gotta get fuzzy dice for the Suburban here, so we have fuzzy dice for doing our numerology and stock picks. All right. Learning how to garden and grow food is probably the best thing people can do. Yeah, I would agree with that. Well, I think it's a fun hobby. You're probably never, I mean, I don't know, like it would be a lot to grow like 100% of all your own food because you need such a variety of it. But you can grow an abundance of something or some things and trade it for other items that are out there that you didn't produce. So that's a good way of doing it, especially if you can have something that is continuous, something that you can produce all year long. But to me, like the number one thing to do for yourself is to learn to can. Like learning to preserve food to me is probably one of the best possible skills, survival skills, prepping skills, just hobby skills, whatever you want to call it. Learning to can is probably the number one. Because you can produce all the food you want, but if you can't store it, and if you can't store it like without using energy or electricity, and then canning, you can do that without electricity. So there's a lot of different ways of preserving food, but there's very few ways of doing it in that fashion where you don't need external energy like electricity in order to make it happen. Right? If you have the supplies, that is, you do need lids and rings, which most people can't produce, but there is ways of canning without those as well. So once you have a supply once you have canning supplies and learning how to use them, to me, that's like probably the best skill that you could ever have. You don't have to produce food all year long. You can freeze a lot of it or can it, like you said. Pickled okra. Canning. All right. Crop yields are down 50%. Suggestions for parents? Like how to parent? I don't know. Like, to be honest, I don't know how I ended up with such good kids. Like they are such good kids. And I don't like people were like, I look all the time at other people's, you know, like the behavior, especially of me and my friends. Like when I was growing up, like I was such in misbehavior and stuff like that. And my kids don't. They're just such good kids, And so I don't know. I don't know how to do that. 2021 viewers are less than 40 likes. Help the algorithm. Go hit the like button, y'all, and come back in and please and thank you. Thank you, Christian Roman. There we go. To the bottom, Brody. Thank you very much for being here, brother. Simon, you're a genius. You really have nailed it. Nailed all this once again. Well, thank you, Brody. It's like, it's not really me nailing it as much as it is that, like, I just don't fall into the belief systems of like what I am being told. Like, I guess I just had a low tolerance for authority, right? And so anytime anybody was like trying to tell me what to do or trying to explain things to me in a fashion that seemed like it was controlling and whatever or manipulative, I would always be very suspicious and just very cautious of that stuff. It's probably why I don't have a whole lot of close friends. Anyway, but that's just the way that I've always been, and so I would always push against it. And anytime I would ever see something out there, I would try and find evidence of it not being the case, right? Or, trying to disprove it. If I couldn't disprove it, then I guess I would believe it, right? And that's generally how I ended up going about a lot of like the research that I would do as well. So understanding that there was these underlying economic forces, and I'm thinking, okay, well, if these things are everlasting, these underlying economic forces, no matter what happens out there, it's a symptom of them, then let's go find evidence of it. Let's see it on a regular basis. And so when I'm watching the overabundance, underabundance taking place during COVID, I'm thinking, okay, well, this is going to continue to play out. So what it feels like, this is what I think a lot of people end up missing, right? And probably why they feel like those underlying economic forces are not at play is because you think about it. If you go from underabundance to overabundance to underabundance to overabundance, and you're playing through this bullwhip effect as it's trying to find its equilibrium, what you are going to find is that abnormal times, abnormal times, abnormal times. But what's happening in between? Abnormal, normal, abnormal, normal, abnormal, normal. You see what's happening here? And people are like, well, it was good during this time. Well, it was good for you, right? But it was good during these times, but not that time. And then good during these times, but not that time. And it was just like, yeah, because you're going through these phases of overabundance, underabundance, which creates these elements of normal, abnormal, you see what I'm kind of getting at? This is why people miss it, is because they think, oh, hey, things are good, just try and keep it here. And it's like, things aren't good. They're not good. We're going through a cycle right here of overabundance to underabundance. They're not good. It's not going to last. Things are going to change, right? And this is what we're facing. We're going to face it with, think about it in just housing alone, right? At some point, there's going to be so few homes being built that the cost of them is going to absolutely explode, and people are going to be building houses like mad, trying to take advantage of the high prices, and then they're going to flood the market with them. How long that takes, who knows? It could take 10 years for that to play out. I really just don't know, right? You got all this like talk about just like opening up government land or state land, whatever. I don't even know. This federal lands, right? That's what it is. Opening up these federal lands in order to have all these houses being built. And I'm thinking, how many people do you think out there just know how to build a house? Like, you can't just snap your fingers and go build a house. It's like, well, I built a house, but I can't, like, I don't have the equipment to build a house. I know how, right? I might be able to guide a crew somewhat, but if I don't have it all established and ready to go, then there's no way that I'm going to just all of a sudden just start snapping houses out without a crew that's established and seasoned and ready to go. Right? So right now we have a fall in production of homes. Well, all those people who understand and know how to build a home are going finding other jobs, doing other things. If you're not building homes, what are you doing? Just sitting there not doing nothing? Of course not. You're doing something, but you're not building homes anymore, so you're out of the game. Trying to find people to do that, to ramp up production again in order to find the skilled labor and understanding of what it takes in order to assemble a home, a quality home, is not going to be easy. So it's not like you can just wave a magic wand and say, here, just start building homes. It doesn't work like that. It's not going to work like that at all. Is there a way that you could ramp up production so that you have a lot of homes being built? Absolutely, but it's not going to happen overnight or in a year. It's not going to happen even probably over the course of a few years. Right? It will eventually ramp up and it'll happen, and then you can say, hey, look, we can build a lot of homes right now with all the skilled labor and understandings and equipment and everything that's going on. That's reasonable thinking, right? But in the meantime, there's going to be a shortage of homes because there's lack of production. Just think about it. There's a gap in production taking place right now. If you have a drop in home builders, if it's not continuously rising, then it's falling. That trajectory is falling. That's a sign of a gap in production that has taken place. Even though the amount that is being produced might be matching that of just a few years ago, it's the downward slide that we're on. Right? We needed to continue upward trajectory. That's the direction we needed to go in order to make up for the fact that we were failing to build homes. If you're on a downward, this is a gap in production that is needing to be made up for, which means you need to ramp up production even more to make up for the fact that you are going downward. You see where I'm getting at? It's just like, that's going to be difficult. That's going to take a long time. Once it does, then you're going to have a whole different environment to be working in. But it's going to take a while to get there. The longer this goes on, the worse it gets. All right, moving on. Okay, I guess. Gee, what he go get them? Okay. I guess, but he get them. Sorry, Deborah, I'm missing it. Maybe you guys had a conversation that somebody else understands. That home builder is a highly consolidated industry outside the standard local boutique builder. Yep. Stop buying crap you don't need. Well, I agree. Super White Shadow 1. I agree. Stop buying crap you don't need. But the fact is that we're a consumer nation. We are a debtor consumer nation. In any direction other than more debt and consumption is going to be a painful experience for most people. Now, granted, I'm okay with it. I'm okay for the painful experience for most people to endure. I think I can work in that environment. I don't want to see people in pain, in misery. I don't like that. I don't like that idea at all, and I don't want to see it happen. But if that's the case, then let's do it. But we're not going to. We're going to go into more consumer and more debt and more consumption. That's the direction in which we're going to go. All this tariff and all the other stuff, I mean, would it work if it was to continue into the future for a long time? Yeah, but it feels, I'm going to guarantee you, by the end of it, it's going to be like a boot on the face of humanity. It's going to keep you from moving into luxurious experiences and moving up in the standard of living. That's the preventative maintenance that needs to be done in order to prevent the ever increasing amounts of issues with the Cantillon effect. It's like once you see the Cantillon effect play out, then the only other, there's no better experience than to raise your standard of living. And there's no more painful experience than to watch it fall. Once you start losing your standard of living and you have to go from driving a nice car every other year to driving a 99, 97 Suburban, right? And this is the only car that you can get and you're hoping and wishing and praying that it doesn't break down. That sort of feeling is depression. Right? Now, if you are already in a condition in which that you're like, man, I'm not moving into luxuries. I'm going to go buy the Suburban out of choice because I could go buy any car I want, but I'm choosing this one because it can work on it. And if it breaks down, it ain't going to break my heart or my pocketbook or anything else. That sort of behavior is a much different experience when you start finding a slowdown taking place out there. right? Being mentally and prepared financially and aware of the economic forces that are happening out there, most people are going to experience pain and misery if this is the direction that we're going to go. Me personally, I'm not. I'm not going to experience the pain and misery because I didn't put myself in a position in which that pain and misery would be hitting me like a lot of other people who want to enjoy the luxury. They want the new car. They want the nice vacation. They want all these things. And that's the exact thing that is going to put them in a position of pain and misery when it goes the other direction, when we're trying to bring manufacturing back to this nation and being competitive against the rest of the world. I just don't see it happening. Right? It's what it takes. It's just that, I mean, just go and read the Cantillon effect. Let me see if I can find it. Like, Cantillon describes it pretty well, too. Let me see if I can find it in his essay here real quick. You know, like, reading through Cantillon's essay and let me see here. Earn more labors and yeah, I'm not going to sit here and try and find it, guys. It's just too much. But, you know, you just think about it yourself. Like, if you had to go from living in a house to living in, you know, an apartment, that would be painful. Nobody wants to do that, right? If you had to go from driving a brand new BMW around to driving a, you know, 2010 Toyota Corolla or something like that, you'd be like, you know, it's a painful experience. People don't want to do it. They'd be embarrassed and stuff like that. But if you never put yourself in that position to begin with, then you don't experience the pain. Like, pain comes from the luxury. It is in every way. The the downfall of society, the downfall of the economy, the relinquishing of manufacturing to foreign production, it's all because of a luxurious experience. And I mean, everybody was just like, dude, we work hard for our stuff. And you're like, absolutely you did. Yeah, absolutely you did. And I mean, I'm not saying you don't deserve it. I'm just saying that's the reason why it's happening. Right? I mean, there's nothing you can do. This isn't something that is designed. This is the economic forces that are at play. You can't stop it. Right? It's like, you know, it's like looking at a plane going, well, they can stop gravity. And it was like, they didn't stop gravity by flying a plane. Right? They didn't stop gravity by doing that. Run the plane out of fuel. Watch what happens. Gravity instantly kicks in. Oh yeah, and it's like it wasn't there. You know, of course it was there. It was there the entire time. Right? And then once you see it like that, then it makes it everything a lot more sense, right? Industries, inhabitants will raise the price of land and labor. Okay. See, like reading through, like here, let me just back this up. Reading this essay is so much fun. I'm trying to find that spot that I was looking for, but even here, it just explains everything so well. Let me just read this paragraph that I come across right here. It says, now, the increase of money in the state comes from the abundance of foreign trade. This is perfect, right? Because this is exactly the experience that we are now facing, where we are getting new money in from foreign trade, right? We were producing the world's greatest stuff, sending it out there to the world. The world was sending us their money. We increased our standard of living. The standard of living was then too high to be competitive in our manufacturing, and manufacturing went to foreign competition. People call that greed and manipulation or whatever. Cantillon describes it as an economic force. Hundreds of years before, right? Let me read it. Now, the increase of money in the state comes from a balance. Now, the increase of money in the state comes from a balance of foreign trade, i.e., sending abroad articles of manufactured goods of greater value and quantity than is imported and consequently receiving the surplus of money, right? This is producing the world's greatest stuff, sending it out there, and getting the world to send you their money. This is what Cantillon was describing hundreds of years ago and exactly what the United States was experiencing itself during its Industrial Revolution and onward. This annual increase of money will enrich a great number of merchants, entrepreneurs in the state, and will give employment to numerous artisans and workmen who provide the goods sent to the foreigner from whom money is drawn. So they produce stuff, All the merchants, all the entrepreneurs, all the people who are active in this trade are sending that merchandise over to the world, and the world is sending the money, right? This is what they're saying, drawing that money from the foreigners. This will gradually increase the consumption, right? Consumers, right? Starts creating consumers. All right. This you guys like the way I do this? Get off. Okay. This will gradually increase the consumption of these industrious inhabitants and will raise the price of land and labor. All right. This is new money coming in. This is increasing consumption, and this is going to increase land and labor. Okay. Again, you can call it manipulation. You could call it whatever you want. Cantillon's describing what's going on here. These are the underlying economic forces. Everything else you're witnessing is a symptom of this. But I just don't know how to speak sometimes. Okay, the industrious people, there we go. The industrious people who are eager to acquire property will not at first increase their expenditures. This is the people who want to buy property, the property owners. Right? At first, they will not do this. They will not increase their expenditures. They will wait until they have accumulated a large sum from which they can draw a secure interest income. Right? All of a sudden, they become capitalists. They want to get an interest rate. They want to put their money to work so that they can get a return on their capital investment. All right? Greed and manipulation is what does it. Right? All these people, all these power people, they're the ones who are doing it. Well, Cantillon described it as generally it's human nature, people who understand how that works. Right? I mean, this is, right? He wrote this essay hundreds of years ago. So we can blame it on the current news. It's like, oh, just ignore all that stuff, even though it's evidence of what is happening out here. But no, I'm just going to go ahead and blame it on the New World Order instead. Right? Okay. Well, then you won't be able to call out things like real shortages coming over a year ago, right? Because, again, you're ignoring the underlying economic forces. So here we go. But the industrious people who are eager to acquire property will not at first increase their expenditures. They will wait until they have accumulated large sums from which they can draw a secure interest income independent of their occupation. Once a large number of, separation between the rich and the poor, right? It's already started. This is from the abundance of new money coming in. Once a large number of inhabitants have acquired considerable fortunes from this money, which enters the state regularly and annually, they will not fail to increase their consumption and raise the prices of everything. Once they have gone into this position and it continues to be there, and they're like, hey man, I'm in the money, I'm a capitalist property owner, and I'm rolling in it, I'm going to be increasing my consumption. No doubt about it. Why wouldn't you? Of course you would. You put yourself in a position in which that you want to enjoy it. Once a large number of inhabitants have acquired considerable fortunes from this money, which enters the state regularly and annually, they will not fail to increase their consumption and raise the price of everything. Although these higher prices result in greater expenditures than they at first contemplated, right? Even though they're higher than they had first, contemplated, they will, for the most part, continue so long as the capital lasts. Even though they've gone up in price, they're like, oh man, I don't like it. But if I'm getting the new money in, I'll just go ahead and buy that real expensive new thing, right? So long as the capital lasts. For nothing, here we go. Actually, I found it, right? For nothing is easier or more pleasant to increase a family's expenditures. There's nothing more beautiful than doing it. Getting a new house, getting the new car, getting the new skateboards and bikes and jet skis and everything else. Man, this is wonderful times. And nothing is more difficult or unpleasant than to decrease them. This is what Cantillon was describing hundreds of years ago. Exactly the economic force that we are facing, the ones that everybody is blaming on a political environment. This is why I just don't believe that stuff. I was just like, well, I heard a story once that was told 200 years ago that is now playing out right here with these economic forces. It's a little bit kind clouded and covered up, and they were talking about horses and wagons. We got cell phone and airplanes, so it's not exactly the same. But the underlying economic force, like the moral of the story, still being told, right? I mean, how else do you deny that? Here, let me read this a little bit more. If an annual and continuous balance has caused a considerable increase of money in the state, it will not fail to increase consumption. Like, you can't help it. You just can't help it. It will not fail to do this. People want to enjoy the new money. Why wouldn't you? Like, if somebody just dropped down $1 million right in front of me and says, hey, man, what are you going to go do with it? I'm thinking, okay, well, I guess it's time to buy the Camaro. Right? I mean, I really would. I'd be like, okay, fine. I'll get the new car. It's like it's almost forced into it. What are you going to do? It's like, wow, $1 million? Yeah, go put that away. I don't want to look at that. I mean, just be honest. It's just like, of course you're going to increase your consumption. And it will raise the price of everything, even diminish the number of inhabitants. People can't live there. I'm facing that right here in Astoria. People look around, they're like, how come there's no laborers? How come there's no carpenters? And I'm like, do you know how much rent is here? Do you know how much you have to pay a carpenter in Astoria? It's expensive as hell. Everything's expensive here. It's an expensive place to be. It's because of the abundance of new money from retirement community, from hospital district growing, from the influx of remote workers who don't want to live in, filthy Portland anymore. Where was I? I just lost my place, guys. Okay, if the annual and continuous balance has caused a considerable increase of money in a state, it will not fail to increase consumption, raise the price of everything, and even diminish the number of inhabitants unless additional products are drawn from abroad proportionate to the increase in consumption. So unless you're starting to pour in new products from abroad, prices are going to increase. Inflation. All right. Supply and demand. Moreover, this is what we're facing right now, guys. This is why I'm reading this stuff all the time. This is why I keep bringing it up to you. This is why I like sharing it. There is a link to this essay down in the description of this video. It's an Amazon affiliate link. You buy the essay, I get a little commission, a little tiny commission off of it. But you do not have to buy the essay off of the Amazon affiliate link. You can get it for free off the Mises Institute. Just type in Cantillon essay on economic theory, and it should pop right up, and you can go and get the essay for free, download the PDF, and go and read it all day long, right? And it's important stuff. I mean, once you see and recognize these underlying economic forces, all the rest of the stuff out there just becomes white noise. You're like, oh, good God, these people don't know what they're talking about, right? And so, like, you do feel that way, is because you're like, man, have these people ever looked at anything going on as far as, like, the history of economic forces that are playing out? It's like you're almost making it up out of nowhere, And I think a lot of times they are. I think they're just doing it out of assumptions, literally, I think that's what a lot of economists are doing, or just doing it out of assumptions. They just assume, All right. And that's why it's easy for me to call a lot of stuff out, is because I'm not necessarily assuming. Right? I mean, there's some things you just have to assume, but then I assume the economic forces are playing out, right? So my assumptions of the economic forces and how they are playing out contradicts a lot of what it is that other people are saying out there. And then when it does play out, they're like, oh, dude, you're right for the wrong reasons. I'm like, oh, whatever, I mean, right or wrong for the wrong reasons, I'm still right, it's such an arrogant thing to say. Okay, moving on. Let's talk about Cantillon's essay. All right. Moreover, in a state that have acquired considerable abundance of money, it is natural to import many goods from neighboring countries where money is rare, and consequently everything is cheap, right? So this is, again, foreign production, cheap Chinese crap moving into the United States. I mean, this is what Cantillon's describing. Right. Moreover, in a state that have acquired a considerable abundance of money, the United States, it is natural to import goods from neighboring countries, oversee how far away they can be, where money is rare and consequently everything is cheap. However, as money must be exchanged for these products, the balance of trade will become smaller. The cheapness of land and labor in foreign countries where money is rare will naturally cause the building of factories and businesses similar to those of the state. See, just like, I mean, when they say they were shipping cheap China, shipping the manufacturing over to China, over to the foreign production, nah, yeah, I mean, that was the symptoms. That's the symptoms of it, definitely. It wasn't manipulation, it wasn't greed, it wasn't all that other stuff. If you want to call it that, that's fine, right? But then you miss the underlying economic forces that are at play, which are really what's going on. What you are seeing is the symptoms of it, and you want to blame the symptoms. You know, a lot of times I look at it like this. This is a great analogy of it. Say, for example, you're like, man, I can't work today. Why? Right? Why, dude, why can't you work? You know, it's just like, I got this horrible headache. And it was just like, you got a really bad headache? Yeah, I got this horrible bad headache. I can't move. I can't think right. Everything's just really bad. I got to go. Right? Okay, so you can't work right now because you have a bad headache. Well, what do we need to do here? Well, we need to get rid of the headache. Well, maybe if you took some aspirin, you get rid of the headache, right? Yeah. Now, maybe we could figure out why you had the headache in the first place. Right? Instead of taking the aspirin to try and get rid of the headache to then get you back to work, maybe we could figure out what was going on that gave you the headache in the first place. And maybe it was the night before that you were partying and drinking and hanging out until 2 o'clock in the morning is the reason why you have a headache today and you can't work. So it's not the aspirin that's going to fix it. Right? I mean, it will fix it for the, you're going to be like, well, no, look, better. No headache, back to work. Okay, well, maybe we should have thought about what was causing the headache instead of what can cure the headache, right? Because what you're doing is you're curing the symptom of the problem, which was the partying and drinking. You see what's going on here? This is why I don't look at it. Most people are looking at the symptoms of it. They look at the aspirin. They're not looking at the underlying economic problem that is happening there, which was due to the fact that the people's behavior is causing it. And when you people act in this way, you find foreign product, not the partying part. When people act in this way, talking back to the economics and buying a foreign production, right? When people are then increasing their standard of living because of the amount of money that they have then acquired, they start buying foreign production. That's what drives manufacturing out of the domestic state. It's like, if you want it, you can blame it on anything else you want. That's fine. But then you miss this. All right. That's why it's important to look at it from this angle. And then you can say, well, that's a symptom of this. And now you recognize that this is the problem. It's the move into luxuries that did it. People don't want to believe it because they want to enjoy their life. And that's what sucks about this whole idea that the Cantillon tries to describe, is that enjoying your life is the reason why we have failure. Right? Your luxurious experience is the reason why we got the pain and misery. And I love saying yours because I look at it myself. Right? Buying the Camaro would be exactly falling in line with this whole idea. Yeah. And I want the Camaro, don't get me wrong. I think I worked hard for it. But I can't do it because I understand that the underlying economic forces that are at play right now, if I go and position myself that way, I may be experiencing pain and misery going into the future if we have a slowdown. It's better to be down and a lower standard of living. That way you can maintain that lower standard of living, especially if you have a flow of money coming in. And that's the whole position that I try to take, is low expenses and high income, or higher income. I mean, I don't have high income, but for most places in the country, I guess it would be a decent income. Here, it's very normal. In fact, it's like, a required amount if you want to be around here. All right, let's check out some of these super chats. We got Homie Who? I love it, man. All right, with the $5. Finally caught a live stream. I enjoy the content and listening to your talks. Thank you, Yui. You changed, your channel helped change my life for the better. Well, thank you, Homie Who. I really appreciate the $5 and the thoughtful comment, man. I mean, I that's why I come out here, guys, is because this is what I've learned and this is what I have experienced in my life that has changed my understanding of economics and then has given me the ability to position myself what I feel is appropriate for me. Many times people ask me, what is it that I need to do in order to position myself appropriately for the economy? You have to look at your own position uniquely, because that's what it is. You own your own economy. And by understanding a lot of the underlying economic forces that I tried to describe, and I keep calling them out like that, underlying economic forces, because once you start recognizing it as that, you stop blaming, you stop pointing accusations and stuff like that. You start recognizing it for that, for the underlying economic forces. right? So keep locking it in that way. So I appreciate you guys being here and continuously to listen. The Summit Woods Boys, thank you so much for the $1.99. I really appreciate you, man. All right, moving down here. Let's go check out. I know I blast you a lot of comments too, guys, and I'm sorry because like sometimes there's 800-900 comments, and I can never get through all of them in a live stream. There's just no way. So we're gonna cruise down here to the bottom and go up just a little ways, and we'll check out what is that? Bam Bam Music. The debt-based system will end either by its own demise or by a president ending it. Either way, it's done. Bam Bam Music, I agree that it will be done, but not by a president. The president is not going to be able to do it. Like, I mean, they can try, but that's not really how it's going to work. It doesn't. It is like you gotta. It's more powerful than that, in which that the ability to have a currency that is actually performing the task of all the transactions that are desired around the world is a very, very difficult thing to produce. Like, I don't think people give it enough credit on what the dollar is actually doing for the global economy. Like, to be able to perform transactions is by far the most important part of the economy. Like, I want to trade my goods and services for other goods and services. And now there are plenty, absolutely, there are plenty of items out there that would serve the purpose of making that transaction happen. Gold and cryptos and all the other stuff. I mean, there's plenty. See, I mean, people were doing it with all kinds of stuff. Seashells would do it, right? Anything would work for currency. However, it has to be something that is absolutely unanimous across the globe, right? And being able to provide that in a abundance to perform all the transactions is not easy, right? So you have to have the people convinced that this currency is good, right? And that everybody else is going to accept it, and it has to be abundant enough to perform all the billions and gazillions of transactions that are happening every single second of every single day, right? So that in itself is not something that is going to be easy to replace. The dollar disappears and you're going to find depression like you wouldn't believe. And although there are currencies out there that can perform transactions, there's not enough. It's not enough of any currency out there to do what it is that the dollar is doing. And I understand that people want to believe that there is. There isn't. What the dollar has, like the U.S. Treasury is the dollar, right? It performs transactions like a dollar bill would. U.S. Treasury debt is the global currency. U.S. Treasury debt is in such abundance that nothing else, nobody else, no country is going to be able to go into debt like the United States has to produce that which would replace the U.S. Treasuries. The United States is the greatest debtor in the history of the world. Like nothing has ever, no nation has ever done this before to provide the world with a safe and liquid asset like the U.S. Treasuries. The U.S. Treasuries are essentially what gold was doing prior to the dollar becoming the world reserve currency. And no nation can do that. Like no nation, nobody's going to trust any nation. People don't even like the United States. Like they already don't like the United States. But yet they're going to all of a sudden say like, well, United States, you lost our faith. China, you're up. Right? You know, it's like, no way. Nobody's going to trust China, right? Nobody's going to trust any other nation other than the United States. And they don't even want to trust the United States. So there's no replacement. There's nothing else out there that's going to do it. So my expectations of the debt-based currency system failing is very low, right? I don't expect it to fail. In fact, I expect it to go into digital currencies, cashless societies, and negative interest rates. Because that's the direction we're headed, right? That's what the powers that be are using for their reasonings behind what they're going to do when the dollar does start to fail. Normally you wouldn't have the ability to go into negative interest rates, but if you force the society into cashless and force them into digital and go cashless, then they won't have any other choice. They'll be in a negative interest rate. They won't have any choice to get out unless they like invest it, move it into other places, which is exactly what would be the purpose of it. Moving on. We got Todd and Dogs. Thanks for the $2. Are all new apartment complexes just collateralized loans? Oh, I have no idea. I mean, I couldn't tell you if all of them. I imagine some of them are collateralized loans, but I mean, I couldn't tell you how many. I would assume that would be a good chunk. That because you got to think like, how else do people get loans? Right? I mean, a bank could loan you money, but most of the time, the bank is only going to loan money to somebody who they know, like they don't willy-nilly throw money out there, right? They want to loan it to people who are definitely going to pay them back a very, secure loan, like something like, but when it comes to like collateralized loans, like something that you plan on selling to somebody else, it was just like a bank will loan, create that instrument of debt, and then sell the loan, right? So they're not even holding it anymore. They get their money just by the creation of the loan. Then once they sell it, that thing goes off into another instrument of debt called the collateralized loan obligation. So now this loan that was created by the banks is no longer owned by the bank. It's owned by some investor out there who is now taking part in the collateralized loan obligation. Now, even worse is the collateralized loan obligation is chopped up and given what they refer to as tranches. Now, these tranches have different investment grades to them. And the upper tranche, which is the very first one to get paid out of these collateralized loans, that's the very first one to get paid. That has like a AAA investment grade rating. So now here you can have investment funds or investment companies like say insurance or retirements or something of that nature buy into these high investment grade tranches, but yet the loans that went into them are absolute crap, right? There ain't not a single one of them that they could like invest in individually in these companies. But if you put all the companies together and chop up those loans into tranches and say the upper tranche gets paid first, when all these loans get paid, well, then now you can have insurance companies and retirement funds investing into these shitty companies, right? And through this fashion, and the banks aren't even exposed to it anymore. You see how that works? This is how, and then there's possibly the credit default swap, which is the insurance policy against those things. So even worse on top of it, you might have some clever investors out there who might see the collapse of those collateralized loan obligations, invest heavily into the credit default swaps, if there was some that existed for those CLOs, for those collateralized loan obligations. And then who knows what could happen in that sense, because that's part of the shadow banking system and there's no real regulation or I don't even know if there's reporting on that kind of thing to like say, hey, this is how big it is. I mean, that could just blow the whole system up. Anybody who like followed the Great Financial Crisis or that movie, The Big Short, that whole story, it would make that seem like child's play. Right? Angry Capitalist, thank you so much for the $5. People forget that the U.S. had multiple currencies throughout our history. Collapsing and reissuance is old hat. Angry Capitalist, I am glad you said that, because you know what? That's not me farting, that's me skirting across the sea here. Okay. Angry Capitalist, that is actually really good, because I have in my collection, I have collection of coins and stuff like that. I have a Federal Reserve note from 1950. I have a United States Treasury note, right? Not a Federal Reserve note, a United States Treasury note. It looks like it's a $2 bill, right? And I think that's from the late 50s, early 60s. I can't remember the exact date on that one. And then I have a silver certificate that is issued after that. I think they're all from the 50s. I'd have to get them out to show you. But the point being is that the Federal Reserve note was the oldest one. That was the oldest issuance. Then came the United States Treasury note, and then the silver certificate. Those three would look like bills, like dollar bills, right? What looked like, typical folding currency, were all in circulation at the exact same time, all being different forms of currency, right? Silver certificates, U.S. Treasury notes, and Federal Reserve notes. 3 different currencies, all in existence, all at the exact same time. And that wasn't even that long ago. I think they were all from the 50s now that I think about it. Anyway. Dog and Todd and Dogs. Thank you again for the $2. Notice apartments are only half full, still building though. Yeah. And I would imagine that's probably going to be the case, considering, like, if you have a shortage of apartments 4 years ago, then you would see those things coming into fruition now. Like, you can't just like snap an apartment together. You have to, like, it takes years. Like, even if you were to probably like push the idea hard, like, I want to build an apartment on this site right here, how long would it take to from the time that you decide to do it to the time that you are actually able to get it done? I mean, between city approvals and permittings and design and architectures and lining up of contractors, material bids, and all the other stuff, like, I can't imagine it happening very quickly. And so when you see like these apartments coming into existence right now, like, even the being in the middle construction or even starting construction is probably left over from the decision that was made, years ago. See, people say that about Astoria all the time. It's like, man, Astoria is just booming. Oh my gosh. And I'm like, well, yeah, we got that big, new medical facility that's being built across the street from the hospital, right across from where I work. We got the Maritime Museum that's building up. We got the hospital who's expanding itself. We got the library that's going. We got the apartment complex, that's right across the street from the Maritime Museum. We got down the street, we got another, like, assisted living facility that's going up. So we have like all these projects that are going on. And I think to myself, every single one of those was set into motion years and years and years ago. It doesn't have anything to do with the times. Like that, not the current situation. Okay? All those commercial buildings don't really have anything to do with residential. I mean, a little bit on the apartment complex, like adding, facilities for people to live at. But one of them's like an assisted living facility, so it's not for like workers or labor, kind of place for it to be. The construction of residential in the Astoria area is really low, right? Commercial building, really elevated right now. So it's just like, people could say like, dude, you ought to come to Astoria. It's so booming there. You ought to see all the projects that are happening. And I'm thinking, well, I work at the lumber yard, and I can tell you there are not a whole lot of houses being built. The houses being built. There's always going to be homes being built. No matter where you go, anytime, you're going to drive down the street, you're going to see foundations going in, you're going to see framing going up, you're going to see new construction happening all the time, everywhere. Now, at what level, to what extent, to what new projects that are coming in, that is very relative. And so when I hear people say, oh, dude, you're just in the wrong area, man, you need to go to this area. And I'm thinking, no, I'm looking at national numbers, right? I'm looking at demand coming from builders. I'm looking at demand in the lumber industry. This is not going to be telling of just my area. This is telling of the entire industry, including your booming little area or your big booming area. I don't know. Maybe it's not little at all, right? But all the point being is that you can't look at your local area as the indication of what it is that's happening out there for the entire broad nation. There is a lot that absolutely can be told by your local industries, by your local observation, if you're in it, right? If you're in the game. Again, somebody standing in the streets of Astoria would talk about how booming it is, but then you go down to the lumber yard and they'd be like, it ain't booming here, right? It ain't booming in residential construction. It's booming in commercial construction, which is a whole different industry. Oh, yeah. More super chats. You guys are awesome. Where is that thing? Or did I already get it? Okay, cool. You guys are awesome, man. Thank you so much for all the support you guys do for the channel. All right. Acquiring the land to completing the residential buildings, minimum 3/4 year if you have done it before in the UK, and a whole lot of money to the point of not being worth it. Yeah, 3/4 of a, like, that's really moving, in my opinion. Like, to be able to, like, knowing what you're doing, having everybody lined up, like really understanding the logistics of it, I think you can knock it out in 3/4, in less than a year. Most people would just have to spend a year planning just to figure out what the next step is. Exactly. Local economies are not good indicators. They're not. They're your inside observation of your industry is, right? But your outside view of what's going on may not be, because not everybody can see the whole picture at once. Again, like it's like telling that story of the five, like I think it's an old, like, comes out of India or something like that, of like five guys who put their hands, like five blind guys who put their hand on an elephant, and then they describe what it is that they are, think it is, and they each describe something different, but they're all describing the elephant, right? And that's because everybody has a different perspective on what it is that's going on by their view. Now, if you're in a position in which, like, you're working, like, I like using the example of a waitress, because I think a waitress probably has one of the best economic views than just about anybody out there, right? I mean, there's plenty of jobs out there that are going to give you great economic views, but like, or even better yet would be like a stripper, right? Like like exotic dancer. And I know that sounds funny and people are like, "Oh god," but it's the truth of it, because they are probably going to experience it first, right? They are probably going to notice something first before anybody else does. Because, like, you think about it, restaurant is luxury experience, strippers very luxurious experience, right? This is not something that is a necessity. These are something that is very much a, like, an elastic. That's what it is, elastic demand, right? Meaning that you can either choose or not to. Inelastic is when you have created a contract that now I have to go through with this building of this home. So when you have inelastic demands out there where people can choose whether or not they are going to participate in that, those type of positions are very sensitive to that, and they get noticed right away. So they can, like, being in that position and then focusing in on what it is that's happening with your customer, the customer base, how much they're spending, how many times, like with a restaurant, how many times you bring kids in, because kids, like, taking kids to a restaurant is very much a luxurious experience, because you think about it, kids hardly even eat the food and it's just as expensive as everybody else is eating. So it's like taking kids to a restaurant is very much a luxurious experience for those who are doing it, unless it's coming completely out of necessity, like you're in traveling or something like that. So that to me is like how it is that you should view the economy, not necessarily walking around and saying, "Wow, look at all these buildings. Things are booming," Yeah, kind of, and a little relative, you got to think about it differently than that. But there are plenty of indicators, like, one of the things that I do when I'm driving down the road is I look to see how many dealer plates I see, like how many new cars are out there on the road. When you see like an abundance of those things, it's like probably like one of the indicators that money's flowing. But when you don't see as many of those, and it's hard to observe those in any kind of like accurate way, because, like, how do you, like, unless every single car you mark them down or whatever, one day you might be observing them more than other days because you just happen to be more observant of it because you're looking for them. That can be very relative, but it can also be an indicator for you if you just happen to notice, like, Jesus, every other car has one of these things on it. It's just like, it could be a sign of what's going on. All right. Todd and Dog, thank you for the 5. My point is government steals land, gives to BR, etc., gets more loans to pay current interest expense. New GDP model won't fix QE for 15 years, thanks to Congress. Yeah, I don't know. I'm gonna have to think about that one for a little bit. Strippers have more ways to diversify than servers. All right. I'm wondering if I should bother fixing the AC in my car, as even stop leaking leak couldn't fix it. And for the fix it could be $900 range, which would clean me out. I can bear no AC, but I can bear no AC, but not my landlord. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I live in Astoria. Like, the chances of me using AC are like maybe once or twice a year. Uh, very luxurious. I don't know. Deplorable. It's my understanding that there are 15 million vacant homes across America. We don't have a shortage of homes. We have an excess of high-priced homes. Well, deplorable, I don't agree with that. I think it's a luxurious. I think it's the move into luxuries. Like people who own homes. Like if I owned a second home and I didn't live in it and I didn't rent it out or anything like that, and it was off the market for sale, like not being sold, people would look at that and say it's a vacant home. And it was just like, yeah, but it's also part of my property. Right? Like people want like there was a time in life that people had a second home, a vacation home to live in that nobody else lived in at any time of year. It was just literally their second place to be. And now we can blame society for that. We can make rules that prevent that. We can, come up with all kinds of reasonings and beliefs and all kinds of stuff about what's going on around that. Or we can say it's a separation between the rich and the poor, a sign of luxurious experiences, and the property owners and capitalists. There's no better sign of it than that, owning many homes. It's just the times we're in. Like, you can't, like, I mean, I guess you can blame. I'm not sure why you would want to. It's better just to understand and recognize the economic forces that are out there. If I owned a second home and nobody was living in it, I guess I would be part of the problem by moving into a luxurious experience, right? Like that's how it goes. It's just part of it. And so, what do you want to do? You want to like? I mean, we can. I mean, that's part of it. All right. Deplorable. The mainstream news says that we are short 4 or 5 million homes. If people had the money, I'm sure God, there's a spot in there. I'm sure they could get into a home. That's all I'm saying. Deplorable. I think that's okay. If people had the money for the home, like if you were to all of a sudden give people the ability to buy the home, it doesn't produce more homes. Okay? Like if we're 5 million homes short, then you need more homes. If you give people a bunch of money, then you're going to be 10 million homes short, right? Because all of a sudden, you're going to have more homes off the market. There doesn't, okay, here, let me see if I can explain this. Okay, here, let's break it down simply. You have 100 people who want a home, and you got 30 homes. All right? Of the 30 homes, 5 of them are empty. Now, what are you going to do to provide 50, 60 people with homes when there's only 5 of them out there? And you give them all money, what's going to happen? Those 5 homes are going to disappear, and now you're going to have even more homes that you're going to need. So this is the problem that we have faced. You have a supply demand when it comes to homes. There is only so many homes, and there's so much demand. So if you have a limited amount of homes and the demand is ever increasing, what is going to happen? Prices are going to continue to move up. If you cannot build enough homes, like me as an individual, I know how to build a house. I can do it. Like I know exactly all the steps that I would need to go through in order to construct a home. I can do it. Right? Now, the chances of me going out there and building a home is really low. Right? I mean, I might contract people out there to build a home, but I'm not going to go do it. Right? I mean, probably not going to happen. There was a time in this country that would have happened. I could have gone and built my own home. I could have had the neighbors' help or my friends' help or whatever, or no help at all, and I still probably could have constructed that house. That means there was an abundance of houses available because I could just put one together myself. I could put one together, sell it, put another one together, sell it. I can produce homes all day long. Well, not all day long, but, throughout my life, I could produce many homes. That is not possible now. I mean, it is possible, but not really. Most people aren't going to do it that way. Back in the day, that was a possibility. So again, understanding that if you just give people money, it's not going to produce more homes. You need to be able to produce more homes. That's it. If you produce more homes, the price of homes would fall, and then the people who were looking to buy a home would have enough money to do it. That's all there is. There's no other way of going around it. You know? Year-old women do own what? Year-old women? I guess you were meant to put a number in front of that. All right, let's cruise down here to the bottom. We have no mortgage because we built our home with cash over a period of 7 years. I hope they get rid of property taxes. You can also limit access to purchase of homes. Okay, well, that's communism, right? I mean, that's a boot on the face of humanity. You can limit the access to purchase a home. Okay, that means what? That I am now, restricted from becoming the most abundant and prosperous person I could possibly be because I want to buy a lot of homes. I mean, I don't. But if I did, I wouldn't want to be able to do that. But instead, we're going to put a boot on the face of humanity and say, no, you can't do that. Right? You can't expand into luxurious experiences. If you do that, you're going to start separating the rich from the poor. Oh, very much like the Cantillon effect. Yes, that's right. That's exactly what's going to happen. All right? You have to, it is your responsibility, nobody else's, to fix the idea of what it is that you need to do to become a capitalist and property owner. If you are doing things purposefully to prevent yourself from becoming a capitalist, you are going to suffer in misery. I don't know why you would do that. You don't like the idea. I get it. Right? Greed and manipulation. You don't like it. I get it. You do realize this is an underlying economic force that has taken place. And if you want to live and survive, this is how you got to do it. The survival of the fittest out here. This isn't some sort of game in which that you can change the way that people are going to think and behave out there. This is human nature and underlying economic forces that you need to deal with. It's your economy, man. I don't know. You do what you want with it. But when it comes to what I believe and I think out there, I have no expectation that anybody out there is ever going to possibly make a decision that is appropriate for me. I'm the only one who can do that. And so by telling somebody out there that you can limit the amount of homes that they can purchase or what homes they can purchase or how much they can purchase a home for, that is a boot on the face of humanity. Guaranteed you are going to find communism shortly after, if not already by the time that's taken place. Which may be cool for some people. I don't know. I don't like the idea. I mean, I'm not down for it, but whatever. I mean, I'm not trying to tell you not to believe that. Supply and demand is completely bogus. Oh, isn't it? Okay. That's a good one. I mean, I'm only in the game, so I mean, yeah. I'm not blaming anybody for it, but the houses are priced too high for the incomes in my community. I bet it's like that around the US. Talk about it, deplorable. Man, I live in the most expensive place in the entire nation. Astoria is the 10th most expensive place in the entire nation with a population of 10 to 50,000 people. I know. I live in the most expensive place in the entire nation. All right, not the most, 10th most. Right? It's difficult. Very difficult. You can't do it with a day job. You can't, you and your wife, right? And if you got a job at the lumberyard and she's teacher assistants over at the grade school or something like that, that's not enough. That's not enough. You calling bingo for a side hustle on the weekends? Not enough. Okay? You're out there trying to hustle online, providing content out there for people to follow and listen to so you can try and make money. Well, now you're starting to make it. Now you might be able to make it in Astoria. Otherwise, don't even bother. Don't even try. Unless you have family or business or something else that's going on here, it's going to be a very difficult task to get it done. There isn't a day job in the world that can do it for you. All right? I mean, you tell me about it. Here's the problem. Let me read it to you guys. This is why it's difficult for a lot of people. It's because of the underlying economic forces that are out there. All right. All right. Are you listening, deplorable? I understand. I understand your position. Rent's too high. houses are too expensive, income is too low, it's difficult to make it, and you want to say, man, there's got to be something we can do. There's got to be something we can do about this. What is it? I know no better measure than the leases and rents of property owners to judge the abundance and scarcity of money in the state. Or abundance and scarcity of money in circulation. Sorry. The land is leased. When land is leased at a high rate, it is a sign that there is plenty of money in the state. But when land has to be leased at a much lower rate, it shows, other things being equal, that money is scarce. I have read that the state of France, that acre, it doesn't matter. It goes on to talk about it. That first part is the most important part. If you give people an abundance of money, you're going to see the rents go up. You can't give people money. It doesn't work that way. It shows that there's going to be plenty of money in the state when you have high rents and leases. Is because of the abundance of money that's flowing out there. Think about it. COVID caused all these prices to go up. Right? You give everybody a bunch of money, and what are you going to see? Rents and leases moving up. There's no better sign of it. So we can say, hey, man, what do we need to do about it? It was just like, you better become a capitalist or a property owner at any means necessary. Do not enjoy luxuries. Do not move anything into that luxurious experience or a higher standard of living. Become industrious as possible. Save, produce. That's it. Buy stocks, bonds, land, rental properties, cheap cars. Don't go on vacation, right? People are like, that sounds like a crappy life. Well, survival, right? Do you want to survive or not? Take it from somebody who's living in one of the hardest places in the world or in the country to try and make it with no education, right? I mean, literally, I graduated high school by cheating my way through it. Right? Never went to college. Never took any kind of business courses. Never did anything like that in my life. Come from a family of wealth. I don't have anything like that going on. People tell me how hard it is. Yeah, no kidding. No kidding. It's hard. It's really hard out there. And so when people, like looking for an answer, there's no answer. Your answer lies within you. That's it. There is nobody else out there. And if you can't figure it out, then you're going to suffer the consequences from it. If you wanted to deny it, if you want to say, no, that's not it, there's got to be something else, there's got to be a different way, I'm going to deny everything that it is that you're saying, dude. And I'm going to be like, okay, well, just pretend that I'm not doing it here. People say, well, not all of us can have a YouTube. No, all of us can have a second job because I worked YouTube like it was a second job. That's what it took for me to get it. That's what it took for me. Otherwise, it wasn't going to happen. People say, man, I don't want to go through that. There's got to be a different way. And I was like, okay, go figure it out, man. That's your economy. My economy couldn't figure out any other way. My economy said that, dude, you're going to have to produce twice as much as you ever thought you ever had to. And I'm thinking, is that even possible? Is that even possible for me to do? And it turned out it was. Is it possible for other people to do it? Yeah. They got more time on their hands than they could ever possibly know what to do with. Go out there and learn how to make $1 online. Then learn how to make 2, then 4, then 8. You see where I'm getting at? Otherwise, it's not gonna get any easier. That's the problem, guys. It's like, since I was a kid, it's only gotten harder. And so when somebody says, is it going to get easier in the future? No, it's going to get harder. It's going to get harder from here to do what it is that you had normally done. Greatest part about it is you don't have to do what you've normally done. There's so many ways of doing it out there now. There's all kinds of ways of making money online. There's all kinds of opportunities out there that people are inventing and coming up when, figuring out. The world has money flying everywhere. You just got to learn how to reach out there and grab it. Okay? And anybody can. It's only the people who don't believe they can who don't. Everybody else is doing it. Look at it out there. There's people out there who are killing it right now. People who are killing it right now. Don't think that you can't. You just got to figure out your idea, your way. You got to work on it. You got to build it. If you say, I would love to have a house, well, if you're going to build a house, you know how hard it is to build a house? You have to put it together a piece at a time. You know how many pieces go into a house? Holy moly. It's just like it's an overwhelming. I couldn't even imagine how many, like, to count out how many pieces go into a house. But if you piece it all together, piece by piece, eventually you complete it. It's a, eventually it's a house. Wow, look at all these comments. Amazing. Okay, let's cruise down to M Rider 777. Every man for himself, we will fall. Only united, we will win. No, it's not a matter of everybody being independent. Like, my economy participates in broader economies with everybody else out there. By me doing the best that I can at what I am doing is providing an excellence out there for other people to then use for their economy and their awesomeness and whatever it is that they got going on in their world. If I do really good at what it is that I'm doing for myself, for my world, for my family, for everything else, by doing that, it is beneficial to the rest of the world out there. You can do the exact same thing by you providing good, useful, helpful actions. That's what I'm doing out there. It returns. It comes back to you in abundance. It fills the world with abundance, and that abundance comes back to you. Right? It's not a matter. It's not. It's not a thought of like I'm greedy. I'm in. Right. It's not a matter of that. It's a matter of taking care of myself. Like if I take care of myself the best that I possibly can, the only thing that can result from that is a better situation for my family, a better situation for the people I do business with. Right. Now there is that mentality that I'm going to be greedy and take it all for myself, but that's not being helpful and useful and providing good for the world. That's not like me trying to be like, being out there giving in that sense, right? That's not the attitude. The attitude is like me giving out there a world of abundance and everything that I could possibly do by my efforts of being a good sales, being in good entertainment, being in good information, all the stuff that I'm doing out there has a return to it. And that's the way I look at it. I don't look at it as like, it's only me, I'm by myself, screw everyone else. Like, that's not the way I do it. Like, if I thought that, I would never have started this channel, because then I would be like, no, it's my information. Angry capitalist $2. It's like trying to stop the tides or winds. Futile. Yep. It really is. It's better to ride with it. Right? It's better to ride to go along with it. And again, like, I put it to the analogy of being out there on the river. Like, I live on the Columbia River. It's a very dangerous, like the Cape Disappointment, it's referred to as the ship graveyard right out here outside the mouth of the Columbia because so many vessels have gone down. It's huge, right? So it's one of the most dangerous areas that you could ever possibly have a going out to sea in a boat or whatever, like, water vessel. And if you're out there in a 12-foot duck skiff, or if you're on one of those freighters, one of the, shipping up to Portland, you're okay, technically you're in a boat, right? You're on the water, you're in the same, environment as far as the weather, you're in the same like river conditions, which way the tide is moving. All those things, everything's exactly the same condition. Those people are not thinking the same thing at all, right? They are not, they are completely different worlds. Right? One of them is like not even caring about how choppy the water is, where the other one is very concerned that they're going to roll their skiff over in choppy water, right? There is a huge difference in the way that they are conducting themselves. It's the exact same for the economy. We're all in this same thing, right? We're all in the same environment. The way that we are conducting ourselves is completely different, right? Much like those guys on two different boats out there. By my calculations, you have to double your income every 4 years just to stay in the game. Okay, so let me work that in reverse. So 4 years ago, if I had half the income, 8 years ago had half the income, and 8 years before that had half the income. So let me work that back. 8 years. No, I don't think that works. Right? Because if you doubled your income every 4 years, you would be like making like, I don't know, a couple $1 million. I think I would work on that math a little bit better to try and understand it for a reality, because I don't think that's close to reality. Because ultimately, like, if I was to start doubling my money from right now, because, like, let's say that I wasn't making it last year, but right, so 4 years or whatever goes by, I double my income. Now I'm here. If I double my income again, right, I would double it again. It would be far exceeding, because, like, by the time you'd be making $1 million a year, yeah. No, I don't think that's right. I think that might be a little bit much. Um, Maybe in order to buy particular homes, but I would give that some time, because as time goes on, I think what you're going to find is that the prices of homes aren't going to go up as much as they have been over the last few years. And so what you would end up seeing is that the income would then start catching up with the idea of where homes are, even though they're quite elevated. I mean, even think about it myself, right? I was reading an article saying something about, like, I think it was like Phoenix or something like that, and it says something about housing prices crash or collapsing or something of that nature. And they were like, it's dropped like 9.6% or 6.9% or something like that. And I'm like, 6.9%? Is that a lot? That doesn't seem like a lot, you know? I mean, I bought my house for a lot of money. It was stupid, ridiculously expensive. And then it went up a lot. Like, it went up better than 25%. All right, from the time that I had purchased it. Then it went in, we went into that COVID rocket ship of a ride right after interest rates started to rise. It just went to the moon. Well, the price had fallen quite a bit from its all-time high. Like, I kid you not, guys, it was something like, the Zillow estimate on the house was like $620,000 or some stupid, ridiculous amount. And then since then, it has dropped down to, like, it dropped a lot. Like, I think it was last time it was at like 535, I think is what the last Zillow estimate was on it. Which again is, like, you think about it, that's like huge. It was like $100,000, not quite 100, like $80,000 came off the price tag or the Zillow estimate of this house. It's still like $50,000 more than what I had paid for it. And considering the $42,000 that I had put down, and that I'm only got like a 3.125% interest on it, I still have like well over $100,000 equity. The ridiculousness that has happened here, like, you think about it, at one point, the house was going up in estimate, on the estimate, more than I can make at my day jobs, my wife's day job, YouTube, my side hustle. All those combined still didn't go up, as could not keep it the pace of how fast the house was going up. Right? Stupid, ridiculous. So when I saw all that money coming out of the Zillow estimate, I was like, not a surprise. And then I read these articles where it says 6.9% or something like that, and I'm like, that's it? When you start getting to like 15, 18%, why don't you come back and talk again, right? Because that's what I've seen come out of the price tag of my house, right? But again, I bought it way before the massive increase in the house prices, even though at the time everybody told me I was going to go underwater in a matter of months, right? Completely opposite of that. And so I just understand it for what it is. Well, around here, things are different in Astoria, considering the massive amounts of, like, remote workers that came out here. The retirement community is exploding, right? It's a very different type of community. I can't expect this to be the same across the entire nation, right? But when I see articles like that, they're saying, oh, prices collapse. And I'm like, that's nothing, dude. Come out here, man. I mean, you want to see prices collapse from their all-time Zillow estimate high? I mean, dude, I got a house that's dropped like 18, almost 20%. Huh? Still way more than what I paid for it right now. Let's see here. My taxes total was $1,900 for all property, house, cars, camper. Yeah, out here in the country, we don't have much for property taxes. I think it's like, I don't know, $1,400 a year or something like that. I can't remember what it is. It's not that much. I mean, it's a lot, but it's like you go into Astoria and it's like stupid expensive in there. This is like, thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars for expensive home. There's places in Florida and Texas where prices have fallen off a cliff. Yeah, again, it's places individually is devastating for for those communities and stuff like that, but it doesn't necessarily give a broad view of the entire, country and what it is that's taking place. Did I get another super chat that I'm missing? Yeah, I did. All right. Chris with 4.99. I live in, what is that? Lexington. I think you wrote it twice there. Lexington, Kentucky. Is that what that is? Uh, I have no idea how young people get started. A one bedroom is $1,500 a month. $1,500 a month? Lucky. Yeah, like, dude, really? That's awesome. You know how much? I mean, that's like bare minimum around here. Like, if you could find, like, you could probably find $1,500 bedroom apartment in Astoria. I'd probably be in somebody's basement or something like that. Okay. I'm 100% VA disabled and pay zero property taxes, tax on realized gains. You'll need to pull up the M2 money supply and superimpose it against the inflation. Look up the Fed charts. I, okay. I mean, the M2 money supply, I don't think is necessarily a great indicator. In fact, most of the numbers that you're going to find are probably not good indicators. Like, have you ever noticed that I don't bring up charts? I don't bring up stuff like that. Like, I rarely ever talk about, like, even where the current inflation number is. I talk about it being moderately above 2% because that's the position that the Federal Reserve is looking for. I don't use those numbers. I mean, I'm one of the few economists who just don't do it because they lie. They're all lies. FASB 56 already like took my ability to then use that kind of information and just snapped it away and just dissolved it. I just can't do it anymore. Right? I mean, occasionally you can bring it up to say, hey, look at the direction that it's going and by how much. Sometimes that information is somewhat okay. But for the most part, FASB 56 completely ruined it for me. And if you want to see a great video on it, I like in the first year I had this channel, that's, one of the things that I covered. And very few people even know that it exists. For those of you who don't know what FASB 56 is, it's the government basically made it so all the numbers that we see as far as like the government official numbers are not necessarily the official accurate numbers. They have to hide those real official numbers for national security reasons. And then what they give us is a number that is good enough, right? Good enough for investment or for doing our strategies or for understanding the economy. It's good enough. But it's not the real numbers, or we don't know if they're the real numbers because the real numbers have to be hidden for national security reasons. And again, that's FASB 56. I think it's FASAB 56, like Federal Accounting Stability Bureau. I don't know. I can't remember what the acronym stands for. But anyway, you can go and find it yourself. But then again, you can look on the channel. And like I said, it was within the first year of me doing this channel. FASAB, FASB. Now I can't remember. Hold on. Let me see if I have enough room on battery in my computer. All right. FASAB Statement 56. Understanding the new government. This is truth in accounting. Understanding the new government financial accounting loopholes. The Federal Accounting Standard Advisory. Oh, good Lord. Dang advertisers. All right. The Federal Accounting Standards Advisory Board, that's what it stands for, has released a statement on Federal Accounting Standards 56, Standard 56, taking government accounting practices from laxly enforced reporting standards to a new benchmark entirely expressly approved obfuscation. Again, with the lack of being able to speak the English language. Obfuscation, God Lord, of reporting and in some cases outright concealing financials, right? So they don't tell you the numbers. And so I just don't like, it was after I heard that, I'm like, God, you guys are making this very difficult for me. So I just quit. I was just like, well, okay, fine. Then I won't look at the numbers anymore, and I'm going to start studying economics in a different way. And the numbers that I do look at is more about how much that they have moved in the direction that they are going, because I think that is going to be the most accurate, considering that they already admitted that they're going to lie. Okay. Maybe. So it's like, if you're maybe going to lie, everything's a lie. Everything is a lie after that. So again, like, we can look at it and say, these, M2 money supply is this, inflation is that, and I'm thinking to myself, is it in a position in which that is according to the Federal Reserve's monetary policy? I don't know what inflation is today. I couldn't tell you. It's a little over 2%, moderately above 2%, whatever the hell that means, right? And again, I think that's exactly what the Federal Reserve is looking for, right? Is that an accurate number? Probably not, right? It's probably not. I mean, I look around and I'm thinking, man, what is it that they are using for their numbers other than the manipulated number that they want to appear there, right? That's really what it comes down to. We compare inflation to the 80s to what it is today, and we didn't even calculate inflation in the 80s to the way that we do it today. So why do we compare it to the 80s? I don't understand that. It wasn't this, and today is this. But it was just like, we didn't judge it like that back in the day. All right. Matt, you are taught what they want you to know and how to act. And during COVID, you healthcare professional really showed your true colors. Huh. All right. Anyway, I am astounded at how many people sell their house before they're even been in for 8 years. The bankers are so smart. Well, deplorable again. Like, okay, I think the issue, like, a lot of times I read your comments, deplorable, and everything is an accusation of somebody else's problem, or somebody else creating a problem for you, right? I can't believe people sell it after 8 years. What was that? Something about fortune is so smart for the bankers. So this is somebody else that's creating misery for you. Is that what's going on? Like, a friend of mine, she moved into her house 3 years ago. She's now added, I think, $85,000 to the price tag from when she moved into it. The house is up for sale for just shy of $600,000. Is her doing that your problem? I'm just curious. I mean, she's been in there 3 years, not even 8 years, right? She's been in there 3 years. She's going to make $85,000 off of it. She's going to take that $85,000 and go and move to someplace really cheap and buy a house outright. All right, not for $85,000, but for the other money that she already put into the house already, because she has a bunch of equity in it. And now she's going to go to someplace, and she doesn't have like anything else going on other reason than she can do it. Right? She was just like, this is expensive living here. I don't want to live here anymore. I'm going to go place someplace cheap. So her doing that is a problem for you. And this is where I'm like, again, I don't look at it like this being the issue. Like, I don't even think about that being like a problem. I look at it as more of the current economic condition that we are in. Like, it might be a problem if I was wanting it to be a problem, right? My problem is that I'm not conditioned myself in order to acquire what it is that I need to be in that sort of position to have that sort of thing. That would be my problem. That's why I changed my problem to not be in that position anymore. And guess what? Now I can acquire these things. It's not for other things to condition themselves to meet me. I need to condition myself to meet them. That's all there is to it. Otherwise, you're going to be waiting a long time. There's nobody coming, by the way. You do know that, right? I mean, literally nobody's going to show up. You're it. You're the only one. You're the only one who's showing up. Nobody else is. And there might even be people who who say that they will, and all kinds of stuff. They won't. They won't be there. They'll be there. They'll give you the impression that they're going to be there. They might even give you some evidence of it. They won't. At the end of the day, they'll be gone. You're going to be the only one. All right. Let's see here. Sadly, I live in New Mexico, and the price of homes in 2008 and 9 only dipped about 10% and rebounded the next 4 years. I don't know about your area, but that's what I expect to happen again. Yeah, I don't know. They're expensive. Deep thoughts, Matt. Have you looked into the moon landing and 9/11 yet, buddy? Let's see, where are we at here? The government piss in your face and tell you it's raining, then give you a weather report showing it's sunny. Okay. Did flood and fire victims ever receive government help? New Mexico is cheap. I wouldn't know. I mean, everything's cheaper. Like, I look at real estate anywhere besides where I live, right? And I mean, unless you go to like someplace like, obviously expensive, like you go to some city or whatever, but you go to like most average. Well, I mean, I guess Astoria isn't that average. It's like a legacy city, but you go to like most places around, and like I'm like amazed by like the massive house that people can get for half the price of what I paid for mine here. And I'm thinking, good Lord, man, it is so expensive here. But it's also worth it. It's clean, it's friendly, it's nice, low crime, low, like there's crime that happens, but it's pretty mellow stuff. You don't see like, ain't no like, there's hardly even any graffiti. Like, there's some, you find a tag, somebody will tag a building or something every once in a while, but it's pretty well covered up, and it's not very often that it happens. We just don't have that sort of experience around here. And so that's why it's so expensive. It's worth it. Why do you stay in the high prices of Astoria? Kids and family? Just exactly what I just said, Oregon has no sales tax. That's right, it doesn't. All right. Yeah, like my whole network is here, guys. Like, I mean, you know, it's funny. Like, I can walk downtown and I will recognize, like, I'll recognize tons of people, unless it's like, it happens to be a weekend with a lot of tourists down. But if it's like we're going into like a bar, say going into, one of the restaurants or bars on a Wednesday evening, I would recognize so many people in those places. Like every place I would go to, I would recognize at least a handful of people in every establishment. Know them by name, if not, be friends with them or something. It's like the town, you grow up here and it's such a small community. There's no way that you can't know everybody, and that's a problem too, because everybody kind of knows your business too. So if you're whatever, if you you know if you're kind of a jerk, everybody's gonna know it. You need to look at the price of the houses and compare that with the wages. It's okay. I don't know. Maybe, I guess. I mean, it's just part of the game, right? The wages will not keep up with the houses because houses are going to get more expensive. There's no better evidence of that than the abundance of money that is coming in. When you have an abundance of money that comes in, leases and rents go through the roof. And this is not something that can be stopped. I mean, it can be, but it's going to be pain and misery. You're not going to even worry about like whether or not the rents can keep up with or if the wages can keep up with the rents. You're going to have more of an issue of trying to figure out how you're going to eat. So, like, there's no fixing it. There's no way. The wages are not going to keep up. You have to figure out how to increase your income and lower your expenses. That's it. But there's no condition out there that is going to change the wages or the fact that the rents are going up. Like, the only thing that can change is your ability to lower your income or lower your expenses and raise your income to match what it is that you need out there to acquire the property or the rent or whatever. That's it. That's it. There's no other way of going about it. You're not going to be able to find a condition or a government that's going to make this change. Only you can make the change, and it's within you. That's it. There's no other place. Simon, you goonie. Yeah, we're definitely. They just rebuilt, not rebuilt, but like remodeled. How do I put it? Production crew movie production crew came in and did the house, the Goonies house, all to the movie, made it look like the movie again. Even with like the Rube Goldberg machine in the front where they let Chunk in through the gate, they even got that thing working again with the mechanical chicken as opposed to a live chicken. Just do one video of you doing your grocery shopping every year, and then we will see the historic truth. Okay, well, I mean, I don't know if you saw it, but we've recently done videos showing the grocery shopping. In fact, I'm not sure if we're going to do grocery shopping this weekend, but I'll do it again. My wife is the best grocery shopper in the entire world. She is, oh, maybe not the entire world. She's really good at it. She's really good. And you, like, if she was told you have $100 to go and feed as many people as you can, you would be amazed on what she would come up with for $100. She could feed a lot of people for $100. All right. And so when I think about what it is that people do for grocery shopping, and I think about what it is that my wife is doing, and I think, yeah, most people probably just don't have the skill to get it done. Now, whether she picked it up from, being growing up poor and family and just, trying to figure out how to budget and do all that, her ability to fill a grocery cart and pay as little as possible for it is absolutely astonishing. It's so good. Right? And we'll do more videos on it. Like, I mean, we did one recently, and it was funny because people gave us a bunch of crap because it was like, dude, you got a bunch of like sugary snacks and stuff like that. It was right before spring break, so a bunch of little kids running around wanting. It's like, here, you like kid chow, there, you take that and get out of here. Congrats, my son is a godfather and a deacon. Yui, if you had capital, would you start a business or buy property? Um, why does it have to be one of those two? I'd probably start business. I'd probably start business myself. But if I would, like, to me, a lot of times I think the position that I have working at the lumberyard has given me kind of like a soured note for rental properties. See, like, anytime you ever hear about people talking about rental properties, they talk about how awesome it is. Like, there's a few out there who show the nightmare situations of people who have trashed their apartments and stuff like that. But for the most part, you hear like, fairly like awesome stories about how this rental income is really cool and how you get to live this awesome life because of it or all that. And I do hear a lot of those stories as well, but you also have to understand I'm in a position in which that I hear continuous nightmarish stories of rental properties being trashed and just the hard times dealing with it, trying to get squatters out, all kinds of stuff that's happening all the time. I would have to say that it's probably more on the beneficial side, like on the awesome side. If you were to give it a scale, like awesome or horrible, it would be more awesome to have rental properties. But because I watch so many horrible things, I'm thinking, I might want to take a different position in the world. Property ownership, capitalist, right? So what are you going to do? Are you going to invest in property or are you going to invest in a business? Now you can invest in your own business, like you for your own, start your own business, doing something out there, or you can invest in other people doing business by buying stocks, right? Stock in a company. So to me, that's the position that I would more likely go to is to invest into the business side of things, becoming more of a capitalist, looking for a return on investment through that direction, as opposed to going through rental properties. Although, like rental properties is probably 90, or real estate is what I should say, is probably what 90% of all the rich people I know did. Like everybody that I've known from the rebel capitalists all the way down to my personal life here locally in my own area, everybody I know who's been successful in money, who has a lot of money, did it with real estate. So just saying, I mean, like I'm like literally going against what it is that I'm watching other people doing, right? Because they all did it in real estate, and I'm like, I don't think that's so much. I'm gonna do something different, right? Everybody else did it one way. You can go do it however you want, So that's me. All right. Thank you for these conversations with you. I'm proud of your show. Good job. Well, thank you, Deplorable, and thank you for being here. And I know, like, a lot of times I can come off a little aggressive or arrogant sounding or something of that nature, and I don't like apologize for that. But I know sometimes it's a little bit rough to take or difficult to receive in that fashion. It's it's honest though, right? This is exactly how I feel. I'm not trying to, entertain you to keep your, to keep you focused on something like, glorious thing that's out there, try to give you some sort of belief that, doesn't exist out there. This is truly the way I feel, everything, right? Right down to being broke, poor, alcoholic, to trying to figure it out, feeling like I'm actually winning in some sort of fashion. Maybe not at the pace that a lot of other people would want to see me do it, but in my mind, this is like exactly the path that I want to be on. It was for, and I love sharing it with you guys. So, thank you for being here. The easy money with real estate has been made. Joshua, I've heard that a lot. Like even into my like 30s, like even my early 30s, I heard people like, "Yeah, man, the area was really good for making money back in, the last 10 years, but that's it. It's over." And then I'm like, "Well, I made it really good for the last decade, but it's over." And then it takes off again. So, I keep hearing it. I don't think I necessarily believe it. I think the underlying economic forces are at play, where if you're going to find continuous amounts of new money coming in, you're going to find separation between the rich and the poor, and there's no better evidence of it than property ownership, right? Property ownership in the stock market. Wayne, it's not easy till you've done it. Yeah. You're right. It's not easy until you've done it. And I think that's the problem with most is that people who have done it, like in the early days, it didn't seem worth it to them. Like I'm imagining that was probably for most people. They just really had a passion for doing it, or just a drive that didn't necessarily have the dollars behind it. Most of the time, I think the failure comes from people is when they don't see the money. Right? They made money important, the important part, and because they made money the important part, when it didn't show up, it wasn't important anymore. So for me, like starting this channel, which has now changed my life with you know how it goes, right? With this channel and everything that it has done, in the early days, what was important for me was to put out videos that I would want to watch. That was it. Like that was what the important part was. Money didn't even exist. Like my goal for money was $100 because that was the threshold that you would need in order to get a check from Google, right? So for me, my goal was $100, and the only important thing was to put videos out that I would want to watch. Outside of that, it was easy. It was nothing to it. It was just being consistent, and that was really it. Being consistent and putting low expectations and importance on it. And by doing that and putting out videos that I thought were going to be something that I would want to watch, useful, helpful information. That's it. That small combination, that's it. That's all you need. But it's got to be consistent in order for the universe to line up for you, right? Because there's so many things out there that need to start happening from your efforts. Like you take a little pebble and you throw it into the water and it rips out there, right? But if you start taking pebbles and you toss them one right after the other, doom, 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 into the water, pretty soon you're going to have all that water pretty choppy. Right? There's going to be things happening. Those rings are going to they're going to move out and they're going to start coming back. Okay? And in a very dramatic fashion, the more you do it. Right? But you have to be consistent. The moment that you stop, everything starts settling down. I mean, it'll still wobble around for a while, and you'll be like, "Oh, look at it go!" Right? But eventually, it'll all flatten back out again. So it takes time to get it moving. And again, like if you just sit there and watch it, it'll continue. You'll be like, "Oh man, I don't have to do anything anymore. I can sit back and just be lazy." Right? No, it'll all start settling down, and then it'll all be over. You got to be consistent the entire time. And when you're consistent, eventually things will start happening, especially if you're providing useful, helpful information that people are saying, dude, this is useful, helpful information. It was just like, all right, here we go. You also need a lot of luck as well. I don't think so, Kirk. I mean, luck. What is luck? Being in the right place at the right time, or putting yourself in the right place at the right time? I mean, it's not a matter of luck. It's a matter of like alignment. It's a matter of resonating. Somebody says, hey man, you got $1 million. That's lucky. You just came across $1 million just like that. It was just like, yeah. One guy can say, I got the $1 million from winning the lottery. The other one says, yeah, I got the $1 million because my father passed away. Right? Which one's lucky? Are you lucky to have that $1 million? Well, some people might call it luck. Other people might call it devastating. You see? Like, it's all about the meaning that you give it. It's like luck? I don't know, man. I mean, sitting around not doing anything, I don't think you're very lucky. But if you're out there doing stuff and you're out there putting yourself out there and you're putting yourself in a position in which that things can actually, come to you and give you that option, well, that's not luck. That was you putting your effort out there, right? That was you being rewarded for your time. I mean, was it lucky that, here we go. It was really lucky that I had put out a video that somebody had commented on that says, hey, you ought to check out George Gammon's channel. Then I go and check out George Gammon's channel, and then I put out a different video that says, hey, you should check out these YouTubers. By the way, this guy George Gammon's really good. Check him out. And I move on. Not even a 30-second shout out completely changed my life. Was that lucky? Or was that lining up for the opportunity? I've been putting out all these videos, putting out this consistency, being there regularly to have somebody say, hey man, check this guy out. I check him out. He recognizes that I give him a shout out. He contacts me, says, hey man, thank you very much for that. How would you like to come on my show, do an interview? I thought it was great. All of a sudden, my whole world is changing. Right? Yeah, I guess I was damn lucky. Damn lucky that I put out that first video saying I'm hoping to put out some information to help my friends and family understand the economy a little bit more. Maybe I can just take it back to that day. Maybe I was lucky to have the foreclosure happen in my life. Maybe I was lucky for being an alcoholic, broke-ass loser, having the house foreclose on me, a drive within me to understand economics on a higher level so that now I can be here in this position today. Gosh, I was so lucky to be an alcoholic back in the day. All right? I mean, I don't see it as luck. There's no such thing as luck. All right? I mean, you can call it bullet. Whoa, that was lucky. Right? A bullet just zinged past my head. Oh, okay. I'll give you luck. Yeah, that was lucky. But when you put out effort to put yourself in a position in which that you can receive, that's not lucky, man. That's you doing it. That's you being out there. It's you putting yourself out there in order to receive it. All right. Preparation meets opportunity equals luck. Well, okay. There are no jobs if there are you having to get through a favor. Everyone just talks BS online. Okay. What do you call lottery winners? I call them very unfortunate because most lottery winners end up with a very horrible outcome from it after the money's gone. It really destroys them. It's like, that's a bad deal. Like most people who win massive, like a lot of money in the lottery don't do well from it. So, like people say, wouldn't you like to win the lottery? And I was just like, no, I really don't. I don't really want to win the lottery, because I like this. I like what I'm doing. I like this path that I'm on. I like what it is that I'm growing as a person. I'm learning, I'm meeting, I'm doing things. Like this is awesome. And if I had a bunch of money, if I had won the lottery, I may not be doing this. So no, I don't. I want to have money. Like I would love to have like a lottery type of abundance of money. Like I think that would be cool, but I don't want to win the I don't want to win the lottery. I want to do this. This is what I want to do. This is what I think is good for me. This is good for my family. This is good for, the other people that I am, engaged with. I don't want to change that. So no, like winning the lottery is not a good deal. I mean, it would be fun for a while, party it up or whatever, but that's like, I don't know. I don't play the lottery either. I don't gamble. All right. The panda smuggler. I think most of us would do fine winning the lottery. The problem is we're too smart to waste money in the lottery. All right. What's your take on Thomas Swell's basic economics? I don't know. I'd have to look into it. Deplorable sounds like a real jerk. No, he's not a trash can man. I mean, Deplorable has his moments, but I wouldn't go into the realms of calling him a jerk. Don't do that. Yeah. We're not name callers here. Well, sometimes I am, but I shouldn't be. All right. Ever heard of the barter system? Yeah, the barter system wouldn't work very well for most people. It's what limits it limits economic activity. Because if you have fish and I have carrots and I want your fish, but you don't want my carrots. Now, what do I have to do? I have to go and trade my carrots for something that you want. And now what if I go to the person that has something that you want and they don't want my carrots either? And it was just like, now I got to find something that dude wants so that I could trade my carrots for something that dude wants. Now I trade it for this other item. This guy wants, beer or something. So I trade my carrots for beer. I take the beer over to that guy, trade it for blueberries and get some blueberries and go over to get the fish. And by the time I get to the fish, I get this little tiny piece of fish because I got to pay all these different transaction fees to get all the way there. It's just like, it just doesn't work. That's why gold works. Right? Gold works for a transaction. It's like, it's a limited amount. It's recognizable. It's, you can say exactly what it is as far as the weight and quantity or whatever. And then that gives you a price tag that you can use. But barter, that's very difficult to operate in. All right. I was born in Kansas City, and now at my age, I understand why it was a perfect location for my soul. Give me the winning numbers, please. I don't have the dice to spin here for you, but I would. All right. If you gambled, you would understand luck is not real. People should learn how gambling works. The skill is learned would help in life. All right. We will be in another recession by the end of Q2. Median home prices in my city, Carlsbad, California, is 1.6 million. Not sure how people are still buying. I would love God to test me with lottery winnings. Life's a gamble. Yeah. All righty, guys. We're going to call this quits at 2 hours. I think that's long enough for a live stream today. It was a lot of fun hanging out with you guys, talking all this stuff. What does this say? Big dumb walrus? All right, Matt, I don't know how it works exactly, but eventually we do have the option of not staying here if we want, but most people do have to return and most want to. MMA Freaks says, have a good one. You guys are awesome. People are still buying in California with DSCR loans. Another thing to best do in life is be extremely careful who you choose to be your spouse. Yeah, I think that's really important one as well. And one of the things that I find, especially in this day and age, is that it's very difficult for people to commit themselves to that sort of partnership, or to even have the awareness within them to what it would take to have that sort of partnership with somebody. I've been with my wife since we were been together since we were 18 years old. And there was times in our life where it was incredibly difficult. It was very, 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 very hard. And when I listen to what a lot of people have gone through in their lives and their marriage and their partnerships and stuff like that, and hearing about how they divorced or split up or, it all kind of disintegrated. And I think to myself about the issues that they were facing. And I'm thinking, my wife and I went through way worse than that. We stuck it out through things that you shouldn't do. It was just like, it got to a point, it was completely dysfunctional. There was nothing good about it. Right? And I shouldn't say there was nothing good about it. There was a lot that was not good about it. Right? And it wasn't all the time, right? But there was moments. And so recognizing and knowing those moments existed in our past is what gives us the ability to now move on in the future when we when we come into like conflict, which isn't very often, but when we do, we handle it really well. There was a time when we didn't. Most people don't. And when they don't, they separate, right? But if you go through that, which you probably shouldn't, right? Because it could be hard and very difficult on everybody around you and all that other stuff. You get through that stuff and you are able to come out on the other side. Well, then you find that it's not that hard to go through things that used to seem hard. Now it's a lot easier, right? Because you went through some hard stuff. Well, most people don't do that. So when you get 30 years into this, yeah, you're pretty resilient. You have a pretty good partnership. My wife and I, we don't have to speak to each other to know what it is that the other one's thinking. People, this is awesome. I've talked about this before in the past. People will not play spades with us. Spades is a partner game where you have a partner who sits on the other side of you, right? And so it's four people who are playing, right? Partners sitting across. And everybody who's ever played with us swear that we are cheating. They say we talk across the table, that we just, but it's not cheat. It's not, right? We just communicate almost in a telepathic way because we just know each other so well. I lay a card down or she lays a card down that seems odd, and I look at that and I think, oh, I know what you're up to. Right? That's the type of thing that is built. People say all the time, it's like, oh man, I want something like that in my, like, you and your wife, that's the type of relationship that I want to be in or would love to have, right? I hear that from like, other women or something like that out there. They're like, oh, Sarah's so lucky to have this. And I'm thinking, what she had to go through to deal with me or what I had to go through to deal with her? You wouldn't do it. Like, I know you wouldn't do it. You don't even put up with like a quarter of the stuff that we had to go through. So you ain't going to get it. You wish you had it. You wish you want it. You say you want it. You don't want to go through it, though. You don't want to go through the pain and issues that it would take in order to become that kind of resilient person, that resilient, because it's like you're a single person. You're separate. You guys, your wants and likes and desires and whatever that's going on out there. But ultimately, when you're thinking, you think alike. You're thinking in unison. The communication is one of a flowing thing. It's like when it comes up to do something, a direction that you need to go, it's a flowing thing. It's really easy. It's not one of discussion and conflict or something to figure it out. It's right, moving right down the line. There was a time that it wasn't that way. So yeah, picking your partner, it's not a matter of picking the partner. You can pick the best partner in the world. You're still going to have to build that thing up just like anything else out there in the world. Just like any house or any other project or anything, it's a piece at a time. And that many times it's just flowing and awesome and everything seems beautiful and wonderful. And then it comes into the conflict and nobody wants to deal with it. And that's where the work begins. That's when you're having to piece it together to figure out how it is that you're going to deal with these conflicts, because this ain't going to be the worst of it. It's going to be more. It's not going to be the only time. All righty, guys, that's the Uneducated Economist, little life lesson for you. All right, why include the government in a perfectly good relationship? I kind of agree with that nowadays. I didn't at the time, I didn't know, but now I do, and yeah, I agree. God loves me just how I am. Absolutely, man. All right, you guys are awesome. Uneducated Economist, you guys let me know.